The New Kid's Secret. The classroom was always a hum of familiar voices until the door creaked open. There stood Cairn, the new student. He didn't carry a colorful lunchbox or a keychain on his bag. He only carried a heavy, leather-bound notebook and a gaze that seemed to look at the walls rather than the people. Lyra watched him from the third row, wondering why he looked like he was already planning his exit. During recess, while the other children played tag, Cairn sat on the highest bleacher. He wasn't watching the game. He was watching the school gates. Lyra approached him slowly, holding out a spare apple. "I'm Lyra," she said. Cairn looked at the apple, then at her, his expression a mixture of kindness and caution. "Thank you," he whispered, but he didn't ask her name in return. Lyra noticed that Cairn never talked about his old school or his old home. Whenever the teacher asked where he was from, Cairn would simply say, "A city far to the north." He spent every free moment scribbling in his notebook, his hand moving with a frantic urgency, as if he were trying to capture a memory before it evaporated into the air. One afternoon, Lyra saw Cairn sprinting away the moment the final bell rang. Curiously, she followed him at a distance. He didn't go to the bus stop or the playground. He headed straight for the edge of town, where the houses grew smaller and the trees grew taller. Lyra stayed behind the shadows of the oaks, her heart thumping with a mix of guilt and wonder. In front of a small, gray cottage, Cairn met a young girl named Micah. She looked just like him, with the same watchful eyes. Cairn immediately knelt down, checking her coat buttons and smoothing her hair. He handed her a small toy he'd carved from wood. The way he looked at her wasn't the way an older brother looks at a sister. It was the way a soldier looks at the person he has sworn to protect. Lyra stepped out from behind the trees, realizing she had seen something private. Cairn jumped, shielding Micah behind his back instantly. His eyes weren't shy anymore. They were sharp. "Why are you here, Lyra?" he asked, his voice steady but strained. Lyra raised her hands to show she meant no harm. "I just wanted to make sure you were okay," she said softly. Cairn sighed, the tension leaving his shoulders as he sat down on the porch step. He opened his notebook and showed Lyra the first page. It wasn't full of stories or math problems. It was a list of cities, 5 of them, all crossed out. "We move when the shadows get too close," he explained. "My family, we have to stay quiet. We have to be invisible so we can stay together." Lyra sat beside him, looking at the list of crossed-out names. She understood now why he didn't make friends or learn the school song. To Cairn, this town was just another page that would eventually be turned. "Is this the last one?" she asked. Cairn looked at the empty space at the bottom of the list. "I hope so," he whispered. "Micah likes the birds here." The next day at school, Lyra didn't tell anyone what she saw. Instead, she brought a map of the local woods to Cairn. "These are the best hiding spots," she whispered, sliding it onto his desk. "And these are the paths that no one uses. If you need to stay invisible, I can show you the way." For the first time, Cairn didn't look at the gates. He looked at Lyra and smiled. Cairn was still the quiet kid, and he still kept his notebook close. But now, when he sat on the bleachers, Lyra was there with him. They watched the gates together, not out of fear, but as a team. Cairn realized that while moving kept his family safe, having a friend made him feel like he finally had a home worth protecting.